Welcome to today's brand origin deep dive. You've heard of the product. Maybe you use it daily, relying on its recommendations, its searches, its curated feeds. It feels like it's always been there, an invisible hand guiding your digital life. But do you know how the secret algorithm that changed the internet truly began? Our journey doesn't start in a gleaming tech campus. Instead, you step with me into a forgotten storage unit, the air thick with the scent of decay and the ghosts of forgotten ambition. Before you sit stacks of unlabeled boxes, relics of a digital age barely remembered. This is where the story begins, not in the polished narratives we know, but in the quiet hum of obsolete servers and the brittle edges of discarded printouts. You're here to uncover the truth behind something ubiquitous, something powerful, something that claims to understand you better than you understand yourself. What secrets are buried beneath layers of corporate myth and endless updates? What forgotten code holds the key to its true, unsettling origin? If you find value in this kind of storytelling, consider liking the video and subscribing. It helps more than you know. And tell me in the comments, where are you watching from? And what's your burning question about this brand's past? Let's dive in and discover how it all began. Sifting through the detritus of this forgotten space, fingers tracing faded labels, you uncover early notes for something codenamed Project Oracle. This wasn't the polished interface, you know. Early mock-ups show a bizarre, text-only command line initially designed purely for sorting digital junk mail, a quirky detail far removed from its future ambition. But the true spark, the genesis, lies in a particular stack of documents. Here is the major historical milestone, the very first conceptual design document outlining a system that could predict user interest based on digital interactions, a radical idea at the time. Across these papers, a strange symbol recurs. Three nested triangles forming a single eye, a symbolic motif hinting at an underlying structure or philosophy, perhaps related to its predictive nature. Brand historians still debate whether this early focus on prediction over participation embedded a fundamental ethical conflict from the start, questioning if understanding users too well inevitably leads to manipulation. You wonder what, or who, was sacrificed in the process of igniting this digital wildfire. You push open a heavy, unmarked door deep within the building's older wing. The air inside is thick with the smell of old paper and fading ink, cut through by the faint, persistent whir of aging cooling systems struggling against the dampness. Building on that initial spark of the algorithm's public debut, you delve into forgotten boxes, hands smudged with dust as you sift through handwritten notes and early design schematics. This is where you find the first real traces of the algorithm's principal architect, a brilliant, almost spectral figure whose foundational vision was indispensable, yet whose very name has been systematically scrubbed from official histories. You piece together their motivations, a radical, almost utopian desire to connect all disparate pieces of human knowledge, creating a living, breathing web of information accessible to everyone. Their initial blueprints show breathtaking complexity, ideas years ahead of their time. But etched across later documents, you see the heavy lines marking compromises, the forced simplifications driven by practical limitations and corporate pressures. This intense, isolated process of creation feels palpable in the cramped, annotated margins. A major historical turning point happens in these very papers. The first functional, albeit flawed, iteration of the algorithm's core linking logic is diagrammed here. A chaotic masterpiece already showing signs of developing an identity by linking concepts in ways the architect didn't explicitly intend. A quirky, lesser-known detail jumps out. That familiar symbolic motif appears again, not just as a logo element, but scribbled in the margins of personal notes, even hidden in comments within early pseudocode snippets. It wasn't merely design. It held a deeper, possibly occult significance for the architect, a personal sigil embedded in their digital creation. Analysts still debate whether the scale of the compromises made ultimately doomed their original grand vision or simply paved the way for its mass adoption. Standing there, deciphering the faded lines, the initial curiosity gives way to a creeping unease about the architect's struggle, and finally, a profound sense of pity for the forgotten figure whose shadow still lingers over the technology we use every day. Building on the fragile foundation laid in the early labs, the network takes its first wobbly steps into the real world. You witness documentation piling up, reports from beta testers that are frankly brutal. Feedback is scathing, pointing out fundamental flaws users just can't grasp. The initial elegant design principle, the core algorithm's original purpose, is suddenly under immense pressure to change, to pivot desperately, to find any kind of market fit. This period marks the first major internal war. On one side, the original visionaries clinging to the philosophical core of the algorithm. On the other, new business minds flooding in, their eyes fixed solely on spreadsheets, scalability, and raw profitability. The delicate balance shatters. You uncover remnants of a particularly cringeworthy early marketing push. It's based on a completely different premise, presenting the algorithm as something it fundamentally isn't. Think cheap, glossy brochures. You can almost feel the texture of that forgotten, low-budget paper. The beautiful prints, the satisfaction, and we know, balance. Original symbolic motif is either crudely slapped onto marketing materials or ignored entirely, its meaning utterly lost, perhaps even deliberately suppressed in favor of focus-grouped buzzwords. Audio snippets from focus group tapes surface. You hear uncomfortable silences, confused murmurs, and outright dismissal. The clinical coldness of spreadsheets tracking dismal failure rates feels like a stark contrast to the idealistic early code. Brand historians still debate whether this forced early pivot irreparably damaged the network's potential, or if it was a necessary evil for survival. Regardless, this era builds palpable tension. You sense the inherent conflict growing, the quiet purpose of the algorithm versus the loud, demanding needs of mass adoption. The weight of the network is becoming crushingly heavy. Building on what came before, where the brand felt unstoppable, you now uncover something far more unsettling, hidden beneath the shiny surface. After the algorithm began scaling dramatically, a critical, fundamental flaw emerged. This wasn't some simple coding error you could fix with a patch. It was inherent to its very logic, an unforeseen interaction effect, kicking in only at immense scale. You see evidence that this glitch led to unpredictable, sometimes harmful outcomes for users and twisted the flow of information in subtle, insidious ways. A sense of alarm washes over you, replacing trust with suspicion. This hidden crisis was known internally. A figure emerges from the shadows, a data ethicist within the company. Let's call them Alara Vance. Perhaps a quirky detail in this story: someone who initially joined hoping to build a better digital world. Alara became a whistleblower, circulating hushed warnings about the glitch's profound implications. You find leaked internal memos, starkly detailing frantic attempts to contain rather than fix the issue. One particularly chilling document reveals the decision to effectively optimize the algorithm by suppressing outcomes linked to the glitch that were deemed undesirable or confusing to users. A significant turning point where transparency was sacrificed for control. The symbolic motif, once a sign of connection, now appears corrupted in error logs and strange data visualizations, like digital static trying to scream for help from within the system itself. The sensory details here are abstract yet potent: the frantic, meaningless patterns on rushed data printouts, the phantom sound of old dial-up modems connecting to a broken line, the cold, sterile air of a crisis meeting room late at night. Analysts continue to question the reasoning behind the decision to suppress the glitch's symptoms rather than rebuild, debating whether it saved the brand or doomed its integrity. This algorithmic glitch and the subsequent cover-up marked the moment the brand's soul began to fray. Welcome to today's Brand Origin Deep Dive. You've heard of the product, but do you know how a forgotten warehouse accident and a colorblind designer reshaped its global image forever? If you find value in this kind of storytelling, consider liking the video and subscribing. It helps more than you know. Let us know in the comments where you're watching from or your own thoughts on this brand's incredible journey. Let's dive in and discover how it all began. The nascent idea sparkled in a cramped garage, less a company, more a chaotic experiment fueled by caffeine and ambition. You see the early prototypes, clunky, fascinating devices built from scavenged parts, designed to connect people in a way no one had quite imagined before. This was the era of raw innovation, where user interfaces were secondary to functionality, and the focus was purely on making the connection happen, however imperfectly. The brand takes its first bold step onto a nascent public stage, a small splash in a vast digital ocean. A major historical milestone arrives quickly: the launch of their core network protocol, an open standard that at the time seemed destined to democratize information flow. It's a period of rapid growth, driven by genuine excitement about the potential of their technology. But even then, a quirky, lesser-known detail existed. The brand's original logo incorporated a small, almost invisible, symbolic motif meant to represent interconnected chaos, a nod to the messy reality of early online life, quickly overlooked as the brand sought broader appeal. Brand historians still debate whether this initial openness was a genuine philosophical stance or merely a pragmatic necessity dictated by limited resources. Building on what came before, the brand's trajectory steepens dramatically. Early success breeds rapid scaling, pushing infrastructure and ideals to their breaking point. The focus shifts from raw connection to optimizing engagement, chasing metrics that promise growth and profitability. You witness the internal debates, the idealistic founders clashing with pragmatic business minds brought in to manage the explosion. This era sees a significant turning point: the implementation of their first proprietary algorithm, initially intended to filter spam, but quickly repurposed to curate user feeds based on predicted interest. It's a powerful tool, accelerating growth, but subtly altering user experience. A quirky, lesser-known detail from this time is an internal memo proposing a delight score for every user interaction, meant to gauge satisfaction but quickly becoming a metric for addiction potential. Analysts continue to question the reasoning behind prioritizing engagement at all costs over the initial user-centric vision, seeing it as the first crack in the brand's ethical foundation. As explored in the previous phase, the relentless pursuit of growth and engagement laid the groundwork for significant challenges. The strain on the system, coupled with the increasing power of the opaque algorithm, culminates in a profound crisis. You witness the public backlash as hidden flaws surface, unintended consequences of prioritizing clicks over truth, fostering echo chambers, and struggling to contain harmful content. This is a major historical turning point, a widespread data breach or public scandal that erodes user trust overnight and brings regulatory scrutiny crashing down. It's a period of frantic damage control, public apologies that feel hollow, and internal chaos. A quirky, lesser-known detail emerges from the crisis. An engineer's desperate, unsent email warning about the algorithm's potential for manipulation, describing it as a Pandora's box we're painting gold. Brand historians still debate whether the crisis was a predictable outcome of the algorithm's design or an unforeseeable consequence of scaling too fast. Following the upheaval, the brand enters a transitional phase, a scramble for survival disguised as strategic evolution. This isn't yet the polished reinvention, but a period of awkward pivoting and tentative steps towards damage repair. You see internal committees formed, public relations campaigns launched, and minor tweaks made to the platform in an attempt to signal change without fundamentally altering the core structure that drove their growth. A major historical milestone in this phase is the public announcement of a new era of transparency, often accompanied by vague promises of algorithmic adjustments and community guidelines enforcement. It's a necessary, if clumsy, response to pressure. A quirky, lesser-known detail from this period is the brief, disastrous experiment with an AI chatbot designed to answer user complaints, which users quickly discovered could be tricked into revealing internal company jargon. Analysts continue to question the reasoning behind these incremental fixes rather than a complete overhaul, viewing it as a tactical retreat rather than a genuine change of heart. Now, you witness the brand's dramatic reinvention, the glossy, public-facing version that achieved global dominance. This section chronicles the intense, almost obsessive process of scrubbing the brand's history, creating a new narrative, and perfecting the algorithm's perceived performance. It's a masterclass in marketing genius and corporate will that buried the troubled past under layers of seamless user experience and positive branding. The symbolic motif is either completely removed from the new branding or twisted into a meaningless corporate emblem, a shadow of its original significance. A major historical milestone is the rebranding launch itself, presented as a fresh start, a phoenix rising from the ashes, complete with a sleek new logo. You feel the slick touch of modern packaging, see the pervasive presence of the brand's logo everywhere you look, hear the simple, familiar sound of its notification chime, and navigate the curated perfection of its online presence. This narrative highlights the stark contrast between that polished exterior and the hidden compromises and ethical debts incurred to achieve this success. A quirky, lesser-known detail is the existence of a secret internal document ranking historical events by scrubbability from public memory. Foreshadowing points to the long-term societal consequences of an algorithm built on suppression and hidden flaws. The emotional shift you feel is one of cold detachment and a sense of unease about the brand's true motives, leaving you asking. Analysts continue to question the reasoning behind prioritizing perception over genuine change in this phase, wondering about the ultimate cost of success built on a fragile foundation. As we wind down this journey through the brand's history, we reflect on the incredible trajectory we've witnessed. From a chaotic garage experiment to a global titan, the path was marked by audacious innovation, rapid scaling, profound crisis, awkward pivoting, and finally, a stunning, complex reinvention. We've seen how a core idea can be shaped, twisted, and ultimately masked by the pressures of growth and the pursuit of dominance. The key takeaway might be the enduring power of narrative, how a brand can redefine itself not just through technology, but through carefully constructed perception. Its legacy isn't just in the product itself, but in the questions it leaves us with about authenticity, the price of progress, and the hidden costs of seamless user experience. The symbolic motif, once representing chaos, now serves as a reminder of what was lost or deliberately hidden. Perhaps the lesson learned is that while you can reinvent the exterior, the ghosts of the past can linger within the machine, influencing its behavior in ways we might not fully understand until much later. And maybe, just maybe, the soul of a brand is never in its product, but in the people, stories, and stumbles that shape it. Echoes in the stream. Standing back now, you see the pervasive influence of the secret algorithm that changed the internet in every corner of digital life. Its symbols, once vibrant reflections of a nascent ideal, are now ubiquitous corporate wallpaper. Its underlying logic, initially a bold experiment in connection, subtly shapes how you consume information, how you interact, even perhaps how you think. But armed with the hidden history we've unearthed, the forgotten architect's dream twisted, the fundamental glitch papered over, the symbolic motif stripped of its original meaning, the glossy surface reveals a complex, often troubling legacy. This algorithm's impact isn't just technological, it carries a significant human cost. It's in the stories silenced, the alternative pathways to connection deliberately not taken, the communities marginalized by its relentless optimization. The ethical implications are stark. A system built on suppressed truths, thriving by obscuring its own origins and inherent flaws. This leads us to the lingering questions that haunt the edges of this digital landscape. What does the algorithm truly do at its deepest level, and how far does it stray from what it was intended to do by its enigmatic creator? Is the original architect's shadow still present in the code? A ghost in the machine influencing outcomes in subtle ways? And does the ancient glitch, the one they tried so hard to bury, still subtly resonate through our digital lives, manifesting in unpredictable feedback loops or unsettling patterns? Analysts continue to question the reasoning behind prioritizing stability over transparency in those crucial early years, a turning point that cemented the algorithm's trajectory away from its intended open nature. There's a quirky detail often overlooked. The architect reportedly embedded tiny, almost invisible visual cues related to the glitch in the very first user interface prototype, a silent warning nobody understood until much later. This story doesn't offer neat resolutions. Instead, it leaves you contemplating the true nature of the ubiquitous, guiding digital hand. Can its secrets ever truly be forgotten? Or do they merely lie dormant, waiting for the next perturbation, the next glitch, to surface once more? After all the analysis, the history, and the revelations, we slow down the rhythm. What are the key takeaways from the saga of the secret algorithm? Perhaps it's the simple fact that even the most complex technology has deeply human roots, born from vision, shaped by compromise, and haunted by its past. The long-term legacy isn't just the functional tool it became, but the cautionary tale it embodies about power, control, and the stories we choose to tell or suppress. Its cultural symbolism is a double-edged sword, a symbol of seamless connection and powerful efficiency, yet also a quiet emblem of buried histories and unseen consequences. We've learned that fixing a glitch isn't always about making things perfect. Sometimes it's about hiding an inconvenient truth. The lessons here aren't just about brand building or tech development. They're about the ethical obligations inherent in creating anything that shapes how we interact with the world and each other. And maybe, just maybe, the soul of a brand is never in its product, but in the people, stories, and stumbles that shape it.